Yes, I did so much to deserve that. Thank you all. No, I'm very excited to introduce you to Roger Avary, writer-director, Gala Avary, producer, and stars Luke Bracey and Crispin Glover. There you go.
Thank you very much. Wow, what a cool room.
Yeah. Did the rest of them hate us? Is that the...
No, I think they're all just hiding there.
There you go. What did
And
you do?
Next,
There we go.
Luke Bracey.
Here's Luke Bracey.
I thought there was an order kind of thing, and they said Roger and...
Another crew member.
Here we go.
No.
And Crispin Glover.
Crispin. And the producer, Gala Avary.
Hello, friends. So let's talk about how this all came together, please.
Okay.
Yeah, you. And
I
Gala is your daughter and also producer.
Hello.
My daughter is my producer. So, 2009, 2010, I was incarcerated. And, when you're locked into a jail cell with nothing but, a little desk and a golf pencil and paper, and you're a writer and director, it's a lot of opportunity to it's like you're chained to the desk. It's what every kind of executive would like you to be. And, I sat down and I was like, I'm going to write, I wrote like 4 scripts and a couple of books. And, during that time, and, you're in a weird environment. It's a strange Kafkaesque kind of totalitarian funhouse that you're in. And there's all these, you've got Chango, the soldier for the Mexican mafia, in the cell next to you, and you've got
Chango.
Yeah, you've got Screwball, who has like swastikas tattooed to his face, and the cell next to you here, and you're kind of like dealing with all that and the dialogues that are going around, and you're also dealing with the various anxieties one has when you're kind of in confinement like that, and so. I thought, I'm going to write kind of a semi sort of half sequel, a spiritual sequel, more than anything, to this movie I did, Killing Zoe. And so I just sat down and I just started writing, and this is just sort of what spilled out from that environment. The thing is, every time that I would write something, about every week they kind of come into the cell block, and they take everybody out of their cells and they strip you naked and they put you up against the wall and they're giving you new clothes, and they're going through your cell and they're ripping it apart and they're looking for contraband. They're looking for, shanks and tar heroin and cell phones and Pruno and all sorts of.
Not necessarily
I hear a
in that
Pruno
order.
fan, a Pruno fan up in the front. Okay, so So, yeah. And for me, they were looking for anything that I was writing, because I was writing about my environment. So they would confiscate anything that I was writing. But I learned that I could send pages out in letters, and if I sealed them whenever they kind of raided the cells or whenever they called me to go to yard or something, I would just seal an envelope, and it's illegal for them to open the envelope. They have to mail it at that point. And so I would mail pages back to my daughter, who was, how old were you?
I was 13 at the time, and this script was actually my very first job transcribing it from paper to final draft. So it's been a long 10 years now working on this project with my father.
Yeah, and as a filmmaker who cultivates from my life into my work, I mean, it's all wrapped up in a kind of crazy French farce. I mean, it's far from me, but the truth is, it is me in some ways. I mean, this super handsome guy played me. I made sure to find.
If you're going to cast yourself, why not,
Yeah, exactly. And, my wife is represented as, by Nina Dobrev, and, the little girl, my daughter. And, and it was just sort of my way of allegorically processing kind of everything that I had been through and getting out and dealing with a probation officer and all of that. And this is just sort of how my brain kind of processed all of that and kind of got it out. It's like sort of a therapy, right? So.
You seem well today. I hope you are.
I mean,
Enough. That's fine.
I mean,
That's fine
yes,
too.
yes. However, I'll say, look, I went to jail because I killed a man, and it's something that I'm really not proud of at all. And it's something that I wake up every day, and my very first thought is, what can I do today? And I kind of have this belief that you're not defined by the good or bad that happens to you in life, but how you react to the good and bad. And so I just resolved, you either let something like that kind of destroy you and allow it to kind of cause you to cave in on yourself, or you try to allow it to make yourself better and just productive. I just wanted to be productive, and this was just sort of my way of dealing with my experience. I mean, it's being what it is.
Having just met your daughter and your lovely son, I think you're doing something right.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, family is the most important thing there is, and it's something I think about every day. So.
Well, so Luke, just a nice quiet day at home, and someone said, "Do you want to be me?" How did you get involved?
Pretty much like that, actually.
Yeah. He just found you on the street.
Yeah, I got sent the script. I think Roger is a longtime friends with my manager, and just kind of got the script sent to me. He said, read it. It's by Roger. I went, oh, this is awesome. I get to read one of Roger's scripts. And I loved it. I had so much fun reading the script, and just went, oh, I got to talk to Roger. We met on Skype, over Skype. We had a meeting for an hour and a half, just got along really, really well. Eventually we both said, yeah, I said, I'd love to be a part of this film if you'd have me. And he said, I'd love to have you. I go, fantastic. When do we start shooting? He said, next Monday. And I said...
Like, when it comes together, it comes together. And you're like, okay, we got to go now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like 6 days. And I went,
oh my goodness.
Fuck it, let's go. Like, it's anything...
So were you buzz cutting with the beard?
I'd had a beard. I didn't grow it in 6 days.
I'm just checking. That's the... obviously, you look quite different in the film.
Yeah, I have friends that call me a shapeshifter because I look quite different all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, big beard, and I thought, like, as you see, the guy Red, he's a really lovely guy. Like, he's got a big heart and a heart of gold, and he's a bit of a scallywag, sure, but he's not an evil dude. And I think, like, just having the beard and the shaved head, I think he had to put on a costume a little bit to get through his time in there.
Yeah, and the truth is, when I was on the inside, I discovered really quickly that there was like one razor for like 40 guys in every tank, the one electric razor, and you open it up and it's like full of pubic hair, and people are like, doing their whole body with it. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna grow a beard. I'm gonna grow a beard while I'm here. And so I let like the beard grow. And after a while, I looked like, a mass murderer on my way to Pelican Bay or something like that. And people started leaving me alone. And I was like, that's the key. I look like a biker now. That's the...
Now, you're going down here. Was it actually that long?
Yeah, I mean,
because in my
how long was it
dreams,
going?
that's where...
Yeah, it was like that long.
It came out.
Yeah,
it
it was like
Yeah.
like ye olden times beard, basically. Or hipster. I would take your pick.
It's the same thing. It's fine. So what was anything in particular difficult?
I mean, learning your lines and creating a character in 6 days was pretty
Learning lines
difficult.
is hard.
It was but that kind of, it's funny when you like start off acting, that's kind of the norm. You kind of get a job and then you're shooting in 2 weeks because you're the last piece of the puzzle to get put into it, and they don't really give a fuck about you because you don't really matter in that way, So you just kind of, I know I was kind of used to just getting on my bike and making sure every waking moment I had was dealt with doing this, and I just thought it was a really interesting challenge, and luckily Roger made us the suggestion kind of 3 days into my prep, 3 days before starting shooting, and I said, you know what, maybe you should do your Australian accent in this. I went, oh, thank you.
And that was literally because as we were workshopping together, over Skype, and we would talk in between. I started realizing, when he speaks, when it's me, when I see me and it's like an American accent speaking, it's kind of like an asshole. But there's something about that Australian.
Yeah. That really
lyrical Australian.
You're so damn likable.
Yeah, you can get away with anything. You can get away with anything. And it was
Amazing
like,
what a round vowel can do.
Yeah.
But no, it was one of those things where like 6 days is not quite. As you said, we were workshopping and it was a bit in my throat, the accent. I love doing accents. I think they're really, really integral to building a character and stuff like that. But it was just in my throat. It wasn't in my body yet. And then when Roger said it, and it really was true, because I didn't want him to be annoying. Because I think in an American accent, kind of he's always had an answer for something, and he kind of came across as a bit of an annoying frat guy. Such a Chad type guy. Like, hey, stop it, honeymoon, it's fine. Like, hey, don't worry, I've got some bear bonds, it's all good. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. You know, but he was, as being a bit rakish and Australian, he was kind of a bit more lovable, I thought, and that's thank you to Roger. But it was fun, and I hadn't ever really done an Australian accent in a film, which was
so
another
funny.
interesting thing, because like, I also didn't think I could hear myself when I wasn't telling the truth as well. So like, yeah, it was a really great experience.
Well, I don't think anyone knows what Crispin's going to sound like in real life. That's the thing. Speaking to you backstage, sort of going, hi, anything. You could tell me anything, and I would just go with it.
What? I don't understand. What do you mean?
You are also a chameleon.
Oh,
and someone
okay.
who's done a little bit of everything.
Okay,
So
good.
if you Christian Baled and suddenly had a really thick, sort of Welsh, sort of English accent, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so how did you get involved?
Roger and I had worked on Beowulf before, and that he co-wrote that with Neil Gaiman, and I had Robert Zemeckis. It was originally written for Roger to direct that movie, and then Robert Zemeckis got hold of the script, and Robert Zemeckis wanted to direct it, so he bought the script, and he's told Roger and Neil that he would cast the people that they wanted to play the roles, and I was the person they wanted to play Grendel, and there'd been a lawsuit about the sequel to Back to the Future because they took the molds from my face from the original film that were made for the old age makeup, and they put prosthetics onto another actor in order to fool audiences into believing that I was in the film, which of course is illegal.
Yeah.
And,
also, why? We
I'm
won't. Yeah, we won't. I'm
I'm
sorry. I'm sorry.
literally writing a book it's about 450 pages. That's not the only subject matter, but I go into detail.
It's 400 pages of it.
Yeah, right.
No, it's actually much smaller portion of the book, but it's too complicated to go into right now. But suffice it to say, what they did was illegal, and luckily that can't happen again. But when something like that happens, you think, well, I'm never going to work with those people again. So really, I'm grateful to Roger and to Neil for having put me forth, because that was a good experience working with Robert Zemeckis again on Beowulf. I liked the script. I liked the character. I liked the script as a whole. Interestingly, the moral of that movie had to do with lies, and there were a lot of lies having to do with Back to the Future. I won't go into too much detail. So it was actually like an antidote morally to me, interestingly, but it also was reparative for me in a lot of ways. I had a good experience working with Robert Zemeckis on that film. Ultimately, I had a good experience working with him on the first film, on Back to the Future. But then what happened after was not good. But so that was a helpful thing. So then when I got the script from Roger, I read it, I knew what a great part. I also only had 7 days from getting the script to being on set shooting. So there was a lot
Literal
to do.
shooting. Yeah.
Well, both. Yeah. Literal
The movie,
shooting.
I mean,
yeah.
this was a tough movie because it would come together and fall apart like every day, several times a day. Yeah. It was constantly falling apart. And when it finally had a moment of stability and I was like, okay, it's happening, I started trying to close things, and I reached out to Crispin. I was like, okay, I thought of you, and I was like, I need a friend here, and Crispin is perfect for this, and I didn't have your number, and so I went onto IMDb and I found a telephone number and I called it up, and your dad answered, and Crispin's dad is for me a famous actor from Diamonds Are Forever and Chinatown and a whole panopticon of movies, and he answers the phone. He's like, "Yeah, who is this?" And I'm like, "It's Roger. I'm a friend of Crispin's. I'm looking for him." "Yeah, he's in. Check." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm looking for him because I've got this part for him, and I'd like him to." "Oh yeah, you got any money?" And Yeah,
It's a good dad.
Yeah, we got some. I mean, it's a small film, but we have enough. It's like a real movie. We can afford to pay him. And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what. If Crispin doesn't do it, I'll do it." And and I was like, "Man, that's Hollywood. That's."
I'm just gonna say you should make that movie also, because I would absolutely watch your dad or
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Father-son
assassin.
Interestingly, in fact, Roger just came over and saw. I've been working on a movie for many years. It's the first movie where my father and I have acted together. I started developing it in 2007, and we started shooting it in 2013. Every year there's been at least one production segment, shot it on 35 millimeter film negative, and all the way through last year, from 2013, every year at least one production segment. Finally, this is the first year I didn't shoot anything. I've just been editing. I knew I had enough, and it'll be ready for 2020. So.
That's wonderful
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
That's something to look forward to, right?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's something to look forward to for sure.
So, Gala, do you
Hello.
like movies? Did you want to make movies?
Yes, that's a definite yes. I don't think anyone can be in this industry without actually wanting to make movies and actually wanting to love movies. I feel like there's so many people that want to get into this industry. So if you don't love it and you don't want to live it and breathe it every single living moment, you won't succeed in this industry. So I'm really lucky to have a father that at the age of 10, when I said, "Hey, Dad, I have this idea for a story," he said, "Great, for your birthday, here's final draft. Write it down, make a script." And ever since then, we've been working together. I mean, I had my first official job with him at 15, and we've
Does
just
he pay well?
yeah.
She's actually in the Writers Guild. We're dual citizens with Canada, and so we've worked on various television productions, and she's now my writing partner and is now my producing partner. Both of those jobs, like when you're writing with somebody and frankly also a really good producer, those are relationships that are strongly based on trust, because you're, in the case of a writer, you're sharing your brain space with somebody else, and you're making yourself vulnerable, all your ideas and thoughts, and so you want to make sure that happens with somebody who you absolutely trust. And as a producer, you want somebody who's going to watch your back. And one thing's for certain, Gala was always watching my back and making sure I had the tools that I need on the day, and that everybody was taken care of. She was there protecting Ella, the little actress who played Beatrice, and
Yeah, great job.
kind of guarding her and being with her every day.
It was her
this-
very first time actually ever being on a set
Yeah.
when we were filming this. So
and
it's
it's
her
kind
very
of a
first
weird
film.
movie, so
Yeah. Well, she's very
Kind
lucky
of.
to have you, because then her memories of her first time are going to be really special.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have her. She was a fantastic actress to work with. She was super prepared, knew all of her lines that day. It was just great to work with her.
Do you have a favorite part in the process? Is there something you look forward to most, or is it just everything?
I think it's everything. I think there's a
Yeah.
little bit of fantasticness in every single aspect of the first conception, all the way to getting to see it on the big screen with an audience, getting to meet actors. I mean, Crispin and Luke and Mina and Clay and Clifton, it's like just magic. Getting to capture magic is basically my favorite part.
Well, I do believe that if you haven't been in a movie with Clifton Collins Jr., you don't actually exist.
Yeah.
That's my feeling. So when it did come together and you started shooting, did it feel organic? Did it feel right?
Well, I mean, it might be better to ask them that question, because to me it felt like, it's my process. This kind
Sure.
of the process that I have, which I have this kind of philosophy that I never tell an actor no. I just never say no. If somebody wants something or is going somewhere or feeling something, I feel like I'm just there to I'm not there to tell you, and forgive me if I've ever breached this, but I'm not there to tell you what to do or what not to do, but just to be there to kind of facilitate that and to help, allow you to go to where you need to go. And those places are sometimes, dangerous or demented or, there's all sorts of emotions that you can, that when you're really, I think, processing your craft and going deep into it, that you can become lost. And the director's job is also to be there to help guide you out should you need it. And so, my process is just to always try to find something that's kind of real in the moment. I'm always asking people, "Hey, what do you do?" And do you have I did this movie with Fred Savage Rules of Attraction. He was just there for one day and had one scene, and he came in, and again, we had
Memorable
very
scene.
little, very little rehearsal, none, in fact. And I just asked him, like, beforehand, I said, tell me about yourself, like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I play clarinet. And I'm like, oh, you play clarinet? And he's like, yeah, I have it in the car. And I'm like, well, go get it. And next thing you know, he's playing clarinet in the scene. And so it's just a matter of trying to find things that are both real to the actor, true to the part, and then just looking for the accidents in life, because that's actually what makes, for me, a movie interesting, is kind of stringing together all of the accidents so that you feel that kind of spontaneity you feel in theater a little bit. And even though the movie's kind of a farce, I know this is my process. And so if I see somebody who has a Shriner car, in the garage across the street, I walk over there and I'm like, hey, how much for that? To rent it for a few hours. And suddenly there's a Shriner car in the movie. So
That's also actually how Nina's dog got in the movie too.
yeah, exactly.
There's no dog written into the script, and Nina had her dog on set. And she's like, "Oh, I love my dog." And we said, "Okay, let's put it in the movie."
And we're doing like little bits of like rehearsal and stuff, and Luke and Nina are kind of preparing for the scene, and the
It was
dog's
the first day of shooting.
yeah, first day of shit. Yeah,
I think
like
they knew each
literally
other
the
for 12
first
hours.
first
Yeah,
scene.
12
first shot
hours.
is like Luke, and and like Nina's dog is like jumping in there and getting in between and
That was really funny.
Yeah.
Like when he,
let's just
he
make it
comes
part
and
of it.
barks in my face, and I just turned and it's just like that was how ridiculous the filming was, and how much fun it was, and like how much fun it is to watch as a film was how much fun it was to make. At least for me, like it was full of energy, and it was fun, and there were like poignant moments, and there was hilarious moments, there were ridiculous moments, and I loved every second of it because of like Roger opened us up to that possibility that you can't do anything wrong, and the trust. He talked about trust before, and that's so important as an actor with the director. I mean, I think Roger's a genius. I love everything he's done. So to come on with 6 days of prep and just be like, Roger be like, I love it. Just do it. And you that kind of freedom I'd never been afforded before. So it was a really rewarding experience on that level, just to have kind of trust that he's going to, just shepherd me in the right direction when I start doing silly things. And that was one of the silliest.
And it was always a matter of seeking out just anything interesting. I think Stanley Kubrick said a movie doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be interesting. It's like the audience will figure out a way to have it make sense on their own. And it's almost better if you don't like worry about all those plot-based things and just focus on story instead. Because for me, there's two things. There's plot and story. Plot is something people will see a movie, once for. And there's like 6 or 8 plots that they say. But story, which is everything that hangs on the plot, like, character and color and light and shadow and theme and metaphors and all the stuff that you layer onto it, that's story. And people will go see a movie again and again and again for story. And so, which is like why 2001 endures to this day, because it has a very thin plot, but super strong story. And so I'm always just trying to look for letting people kind of go and just find something interesting within yourself, find something in the moment, and letting and being open to the chaos of the universe. Because when the sun is kind of at the wrong place and it's glinting you in the eye, you use it. If you've just quit smoking and suddenly, or your actor, just quit smoking, and I planned us to be here talking, and I'm going to do this and this, I'm going to do like a French Dutch, and I'm going to like handle it this way, and we're going to sit there and we're going to perform the scene. If we arrive on set and the actor is just quit smoking or just had a breakup or something that has nothing to do with the movie, but they feel a kind of anxiety and energy that causes them or gives them the need to get up in the middle of the scene and start walking, maybe the language of the camera should evolve out of the language of the performance. And so I let the camera walk with them. You can't really plan that stuff. And so you're kind of constantly trying to wrangle chaos on a budget. And which is I feel like partly my job.
Film is organized chaos. That's what it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Luke, do you think because you've done so much television, you're able to get into those characters quicker, or maybe kind of get a grasp on a scene more quickly? Just think about it. You don't
starting
have
on a
a
soap
ton
opera?
of time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I thank every day that I started on a soap opera in Australia. I mean, it's kind of the only TV I've done, but in 6 months on a soap opera in Australia, you do more work than you would in 3 films a year for 5 years, 6 years. It's like it's non-stop, and I'd never acted before in my life. I never planned on being an actor. I just completely fell into it, got asked to audition for this thing in Australia, and then suddenly I'm filming you know, upwards of 20 scenes a day. Like, you know, and then driving yourself an hour to location to do 5 scenes from next week's episodes. And all I was doing was trying to learn the lines, you know. In between, it was to start on something like that makes movies, you know, easier in that way, you know. We've got 5 scenes today, Luke. Oh, like,
It's funny because
I did like 25 in a day.
It's funny because on a soap opera, it sounds like you have very little preparation and you're just kind of in the moment, like, you know, discovering it in the moment. And frequently, I feel like on a movie, when you've had time to prepare, it's like you have all this preparation, and part of it is like, how do you break the preparation so that it's spontaneous?
Yeah, you know, it's doing all the work beforehand, so it looks like you don't have to do any work. You know, like doing it all, so then you get there and forget it, and between action and cut, that's all that matters. You know.
Yeah.
So, but starting in a soap opera was, I'll be thankful for that for always, just because it also puts a work ethic into your work, and, you know, there's no nonsense in Australia. You don't get treated very well. Like, you know, hey, Luke, there's costume, you're hungry, there's a toaster over there and a kettle for a cup of tea. Like, seriously, that's it. And you're like, okay, I'm just like, move along. Don't fucking forget your lines. Oh, fuck, okay. Just trying to fit in. You guys have been making this show for 25 years. I don't want to fuck it up yet.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just here for 6 months.
But then you swam here, and now you're in movies.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Crispin, do you think you were always born to be an assassin?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, no, that's exactly.
Honest answer.
It's true. No, well, but you know, with a character like that, the biggest thing is we have to believe you can do the things you're doing. You can't pretend to be a badass. We have to actually think that you can break into a car and turn around and kill somebody and then get back into the car and then run them over twice. You know, this all has to seem like something you can really do.
Yeah, I had to, because it was such a fast preparation for a relatively complex character, I had to commit. I had to make a decision and commit. And luckily the character is a committed character, so I could just kind of go with commitment, basically. That's what I had time to do. So, but like I say, because the character, even with what you're talking about, essentially if you're going to assassinate, you have to commit to that.
Yeah.
So it really ended up being about that for the character.
No half-assing an assassination.
I remember
Just gotta get in there.
you had some minor anxieties at one point, if you don't mind me bringing them
Sure.
up, about the fight scene with Luke, because you were like, I think Luke could probably kick my ass.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was like, don't worry, I'll make it look good.
Yeah, and I saw when we did ADR, I saw it did look good. Yeah, I'm gonna see the film tonight later. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, he actually.
But I feel like I'm gonna like it. I'm excited about
God, we hope so.
it. Good.
Oh my goodness. Gala, what would you like to do next?
Well, actually, Roger and I are working on 2 scripts right now, one for director Antoine Fuqua, and then one for a Hong Kong company called 852 Films. But after that, Roger and I are planning on doing Glamorama by Bret Easton Ellis and putting that together. So that's our next project for next year.
Yeah, that's what we're into now. We're planning to preparing
early
to
prep,
shoot
yeah.
next year.
And Roger, is your daughter an overachiever? Because I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think she needs to like kind of chill out a little bit and like, you know.
Yeah, sorry,
Are there any like
Stop being so young and
boys
impressive.
to date or anything out there
Yeah, between
calling into the interwebs?
filmmaking and a full-time Harvard student. So yeah.
She's also a Harvard student at the same time.
So yes, overachiever. Yes. Wow.
When we were filming and met Gala and Roger, and then like weeks later found out Gala was 21 years of age, it was a little fucking
It's
head
insulting,
spin.
is
It
what
was
it
a little
is,
like,
yeah.
what? You're producing this film? I'm not an adult yet.
Wow. You are an impressive lady.
Thank you.
You know, I find that working with my daughter, like whenever we're meeting or whenever we're doing anything now, it forces me to be real me. It's like the Roger that you see sitting before you now is the real Roger. You know, she calls me on my bullshit if I, you know, and is there really to like, you know, just drives right to the core of things. And also working with her has kind of reminded me of how to write. I know it sounds weird, but like the older you get, with age comes wisdom, and with wisdom comes a modicum of caution with everything that you do. And so you start thinking about things. And as a writer, this can be really dangerous. You start thinking about all the stuff that you're writing, and you're like, "Ooh, is this the right way to go? I'm going to go get a latte and think about it." But when you're young, you just write, and it just pours out of you, and it spills onto the page, and you make discoveries about your writing after the fact. So you're not planning metaphors, you're discovering them. A planned metaphor is a false metaphor, but one that you discover because it comes out fast. And so she reminded me, write fast. And actually, she reminds me every day as we're writing, like, write fast and more. So she's like also a good taskmaster for me because I'm kind of lazy.
That is the thing. She knows.
Yeah,
She knows.
She calls me on my shit.
But I also learned from the best, and I learned everything I know from my father. I'm so lucky I have my father, my best friend, my mentor, and my protector in Hollywood.
Yeah, which is needed. Let's be honest.
That's wonderful, you guys. When does the film come out?
Today.
Today.
On demand.
On the
And
demand.
in theaters. Near
Go
you.
on to the demand and demand it. This is where your part comes in. You have to tell everybody about the movie. Make sure they go see it, hopefully in a theater, because that's where movies are supposed to be seen. But
it's on demand.
But Bless on Demand. No,
I just
no,
want to see people
but,
to see it.
but
We have
Bless on
biggest
Demand,
copy
because
choosers.
it means if it doesn't come to you, at least you have the opportunity anyway. No, nothing against on demand. It gets a lot of fantastic movies out there. It's just when you have the chance to see it, especially with an audience. And I feel like this movie with an audience.
You know what it is? It's the community experience.
Of
I
course.
mean, the movies are really the campfire, and we need that culturally to sit around and kind of communally tell stories and listen to stories and share these kind of the mythology of our cultures, and allow them. And this is like a really important component. And it's not the same, obviously. I mean, I very much like watching movies on demand, but the truth is you need people. I mean, we need people. The world is about people, so we need them. And we need to be with them. We need you.
Oh my! Thank you all so much.
I don't know who we are.
you.
Am I like not a person? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed it.